Welcome back. Welcome back.
What's up,
Probably
guys?
so loud. Welcome back, everyone.
What's up, guys? To
another episode of Is It Crazy or Is It God?
another episode.
Yeah, just
Another
so
day in the
loud.
life.
I'd be so loud, but it's okay. I'm loud for Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Let me stop playing. So, welcome back to another episode.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Happy that you guys are joining us. We're seeing you out there.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you for
supporting,
there, yeah.
liking, commenting. Did I say that already?
Viewing, sharing.
Subscribing, sharing.
Everything.
You guys are the best, man. We appreciate that, and it makes us feel like we're doing something good, I guess. I mean, like, we're just being obedient, but I guess sometimes you wonder if anybody's really, out there, and maybe that's not the point, but it feels good to when people interact. It's like, oh, okay, somebody heard it.
Yeah.
What we were discussing, so that's fun.
Yes. So.
I knew you were going to do that. I actually waited.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Honey, how was your week? How was your week this week? How did your week go?
It was great. It's always great. I learned some things this week. I guess I do that every week. That's the goal, to constantly learn, especially when you're going through self-development. Yeah. So I learned this week how was my week? It was good. But I learned some things that I have forgotten.
Okay.
Like what it feels to be uncomfortable, and then accomplishing something, and then that momentum bringing me into the next day. Like sometimes when I go to work and I do the same thing over again, it feels mundane. It's not supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
And even though uncomfortable is different, and I did it and I felt really good. Now, here's the thing. This week, I woke up early 3 times, guys, right? And I'm going to be more consistent with that. And it's just about building the habit, right? That's what I'm trying to focus on for my week. But overall, it was good. I learned a lot. And I'm going to continue to learn more, especially with this reading. Like, every time we read, it reminds me of something that I'm doing that I need to pray about. That's what it's supposed to do, right?
That's real.
It's like,
that's real.
I do that too much. I'll give you an example. We read again. We did a recap, and at the end of Numbers, it recaps what Numbers is about.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, once again, it brought up the Israelites complaining multiple times.
Yeah. Oh,
and I do that so much. And we all forget that that God has given us, right, the greatest gift, which is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, right? Not only that, He gives us life, right? And we complain. We're in a certain position at our job, whether our car doesn't work. And we have to remember that some people don't have cars, or, like, it's this video, I don't know if anybody's seen it, where this guy is driving a Lamborghini, and then the guy that is driving a regular car wish he was driving the Lamborghini. Then a guy that is riding a bike is wishing that, oh man, I wish I had a car.
Mm-hmm.
Then the lady that is walking, she's walking or waiting for the bus. She's like, oh man, I wish I had a bike.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy in the Lamborghini is looking at the lady like she looks happy. Like, you gotta be careful with what, like, you know, like stop complaining about where you're at in life and just be appreciative and just thank God. Because if you have gratitude and you're obedient, the blessings are gonna come, and it's gonna be okay. But you have to do those things first. So that's what my week is reminding me of. That's how my week's been. So my week, guys, are always going to be great, right?
Yeah.
You know, we listen to shout out to Social Proof. Donnie's always like, my week is amazing. Yeah. I'm getting it now. First I was like, oh, she's saying that. Now that I'm on this, you know, actually we're on this self-development path, your week is amazing because you woke up.
Yeah.
You know? So, how was your week?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do all that.
No, that was great. I appreciate that. I was really with you on that. Because the whole time you were talking about not complaining, I was thinking of myself, about how I've been complaining.
Oh, man,
and here's the really real and messed up part. It's like, I don't want to be a complainer, but I just don't see myself remembering not to complain, because like I'm reading the same thing you're reading, and I see myself in these Israelites, and I see myself, you know, just like, oh man, I be doing that, you know, and then I wake up, and I mean, like, I'd be so excited, and we read the word, and then I get into like either my work day or something happens. Like last week it was traffic. I had a situation with traffic last week.
Yeah.
And I just started complaining.
Which day? The one
that was Thursday.
Yeah, well, I went to work. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I had some real unchristian words and feelings towards traffic. It wasn't even a particular
Thursday
person.
night or morning?
Thursday night. Thursday after work. I had some real unchristian thoughts and feelings towards traffic in general. It wasn't the people. It wasn't a particular person that I wanted to, get revenge on. It's just the overall complaint that everyone who was driving should have known that I was trying to get somewhere at a certain time. How arrogant is that, right? I just felt like that, though. I did. I'm not going to lie. Like, I felt like, what are all these people doing in my way? And don't they know I have to be somewhere by a certain time? Right? Isn't that so arrogant and silly? I really felt like that. I really sat there and felt like that. Like, and so while you're talking about complaining, I'm just like, even though I know this stuff, we're reading the same stuff. You know, I still go into my days, you know, with that sort of thing. But okay, here's the difference now between the former me and this me after we post reading the Bible as we have been. It doesn't last as long, right? Whereas I think before I would let a bad moment dictate a morning, dictate a day, dictate a week, right? Like you get that first, like a snowball, you get that first bad thing that happened, and then you let it fester and roll over into the next thing. Now you looking for something bad to happen so that you could be like, see, right? and I don't do that. I don't do that. Nowadays, you know, especially when we're working from home, we have like access to each other. One of us will do something, and the other one will be like, "See, that's not gratitude.
Yeah.
That's that Israel like
right? Go back to Egypt.
Yeah, you told me that this week. You was like, yeah, you don't want to go back to what you trying to go back to Egypt or something, and I had to shake my head at myself because I was like, yeah, I'm guilty. But it's interesting because, you know, we embody that sort of complaining gene. We just do. So it's funny now because we're catching it. Man, my phone always be going off. I would just be having a lot of timers set because I gotta be on my game. Anyway, so that's how my week was, I guess. I didn't even answer the question. But as you were talking about your week, I could definitely identify with myself and how my week was going. I will say that, man, just in that spirit of being grateful, I am grateful for health. I'm grateful for just people that I love being around. And I'm seeing just different sides of life as far as the meaning of it, what purpose is. I don't necessarily know the answers to those questions, but like I'm starting to see things differently, just through different experiences that people are having that I'm close to, and just through my own experience too. Just like I just know that, even the stuff that I complain about, like I know I made the statement last week. I don't know if we were on the show, if we were just talking, but I know that God didn't put us here just to go and get a job and pay bills and then die, right? Like it shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't be the direct focus every single day, like paying bills, paying back student loans, paying mortgage, paying this, and then everything that you're doing is around, earning the money to do those things, and then about nothing else. Like that's not life, right? Like so just the little small things, like how beautiful it is outside. And like I love the rain. It rained most of the week last week. I really enjoyed that. And even on the nicer days when the birds are chirping, and we had seen those baby birds, and I thought that was real cool. Mm-hmm. Like it's just different things that you should be focused on other than just the rat race or negative things that you're experiencing. So I'm really fully embodying that. So with that said, my week was good. I did make progress in areas that I'm focused on, and I am recognizing that God is continuously giving purpose, whether I know what it is or not. But I'm seeking growth, and the growth is uncomfortable, but I feel like it's God's purpose for me to go through those things. Because here's the kicker, and then we're going to get into this. Yeah. Well, I think we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but when God gives you that purpose or that desire, and then you have and He gives you a choice, right? Like either you're going to do what I say or you're not. And when you say, "No, God, I'm good," then you're just going to wander around in the wilderness for 40 years. And you're not going to, and He's still going to use your life for good. And you're going to get what you want, but it's going to be consequential. There's going to be some consequences attached to it. But when you follow God and say, "Okay, God, I'm with you. I'm just going to be uncomfortable and follow your lead," there's just life and glory on the end of that. And then it wasn't all for you to just pay bills and die. It was for you to do a purpose for God. So anyway, I'm over here. I ain't no preacher. I'm just saying what I feel, what I'm reading, what I'm experiencing that I feel is relevant to this word. And so yeah, my week was good. That was a long answer. That was like a 20-minute answer.
It's phenomenal. I'm cool.
It was good. It was a good week. So anyway. All right, we're going to jump right into this then, right?
Yeah.
Last week we finished Numbers. Mm-hmm. We did Numbers 33 through 30. Oh, actually, no. Did I lie? Yeah. 33 through 36, which was the last book of Numbers. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, the last chapter of Numbers. And then we started Deuteronomy. Okay, let's just give a disclaimer. Okay. James.
I say it differently.
James says Deuteronomy differently, and some might call it incorrect. I'm not one of those people. However it comes out is how it comes out, and we know what he means, okay? He means Deuteronomy, okay?
Deuteronomy.
There it is. All right, well, let's just, give him some grace if he says it differently, okay? You know what he's talking about, people. Okay, so then we did Deuteronomy, last of Numbers, and then we did Deuteronomy 1 through 4.
Yep. It talks about Israel's journey laid out and the borders of Canaan established. So, the journey laid out breaks down everything that the Israelites went through. Every time they complained, God looked out for them. We don't have any water. Here's water. We don't have any food. Here's food.
Mm-hmm.
Even
we
when,
want meat.
Yeah,
we want this. We want that. He gave it to
he
them.
gave it to. It talks about the Levites, Korath, rising up. It talks about also. You remember when God showed them the land, and the Israelites said we can't defeat the giants.
Yeah.
We're like grasshoppers.
Yeah.
God said, you're not going to see it. So their generation died in the wilderness, and now their offspring are now seeing the promised land that God promised Abraham. So after all the complaining, God still looked out. Right? And we even got to the end of Numbers where Balaam, right?
I don't know if it's Balaam or Balaam. I say Balaam. That's what it looks like to me. But I was listening to something on the Bible Project, and they kept saying Balaam, and I was like,
Balaam. Okay, so.
But I don't know. Listen, it looks like Balaam to me.
It looks like Balaam, right?
We're not going to get all of this stuff 100%, guys.
So it's about the message. So Balaam, while the Israelites didn't even know, Balaam was blessing them instead of cursing them, because one of the Balak wanted to curse them. The Israelites didn't even know that God still had their back. So we complain and God still looks out for us. Isn't that something? We complain and complain and complain, and God's like, all right, here's some water. Here's some meat. Here's some manna. That's what it is, right? So it's just interesting. So that's like the Israelites, the journey played out. And then the borders of Canaan established this. They start establishing who's going to rule what portions of the land of Canaan.
It does say. It says Balaam.
Balaam.
Or Balaam. I don't know
Balaam?
what that dot means.
Oh, Balaam?
I'm just going to say it the way that I know that the long line over the A means it's a long vowel. But what does that little dot mean?
I don't know.
Because I thought it should be like a little...
Balaam?
A dip for the short vowel.
Like a lamb?
Listen, I'm just going to say Balaam. I'm just going to say Balaam.
Okay.
Balaam or whatever. We know who I'm talking about.
What do you see in this reading that is most helpful? About Israel's journeys laid out and the borders of Canaan established.
Wait, it says most hopeful.
Oh, most hopeful. I'm sorry, not hopeful.
That's okay, because it's a different question.
What do you see in this reading that is most hopeful?
Okay, so that's most hopeful.
Yes.
Okay, a couple of things, actually. The fact that they kept it moving, that God let them keep it moving, even though it was really their parents, I think. So the Exodus Israelites didn't get into that generation didn't get into the promised land. But the fact that God just was with them and he kept it moving. There was this one part, and this is one of those repetitive parts, but it wasn't as repetitive as normally it was. It goes into great detail. In Numbers 33, it was really cool to see how in Numbers 33, so Moses was taking count, right? 'Cause Numbers, I think, was named Numbers, if I'm not mistaken, because of the census. They were taking count of the number of people and all that stuff. And what's interesting is, like, I joked about this. Moses was keeping record of, like, how many people, like, I don't know if he was the person who counted. I want to say he was, but
I think he was. But
he was recording their points of departure, right? So, like, as they were moving along the path, like along the Jordan, I can't remember exactly where they were moving along, but they as they were traveling from town to town, like going to the promised land, Moses was keeping track, and I was like, yo, Moses had a bullet journal, y'all, because I love bullet journaling and I love planners. It's like, how was he keeping this, right? It just makes me really interested. Like, I know he had the tablets when he got the commandments at Mount Sinai, but I wondered, like, how is he keeping all this? He must have had a little, like, journal or something. Moses had a bullet journal. I'm just convinced. I'm just gonna say that. So anyway, but I thought it was hopeful that they kept going, like, and they do this whole breakdown in Numbers 33, and maybe it starts at 8, but it kind of gets, they moved out from one camp and camped in the wilderness, and then they moved out from there, and then they went here, and they moved out from here, and then they went there. You know what I'm saying? So it just basically keeps saying they moved out from this place and they camped at this place, and then they moved out from this place and they camped on it, and it just kept going forward and forward and forward, and it's like they were just on the move. And it really gave me hope, because when you go into a new space, when you go, it was like going from the 4th grade to the 5th grade, and 5th grade to 6th grade, or even going from town to town, or wherever. When you have a new perspective, you have a new hope. So I thought that was really hopeful. Also, just like I said, overall, just the fact that they they couldn't have known necessarily like where they were going. They knew they were going to the promised land, but every time they stopped and camped, they just did what they had to do, because you can't just keep, running like Forrest Gump. So I feel like they were just, hopeful for the promised land. And I just I thought that was cool, because no matter what you go through, or what you see, or what you experience, like, all those days couldn't have been good for them. You know what I'm saying? And they just kept going. Yeah. So that's hopeful, because it's not even like they had a destination. They knew they were going to the promised land, but they didn't just, they didn't know how.
Yeah.
So I think that's hopeful.
Okay.
What do you think?
Something that we said earlier is that after all the complaining that they did, and all the complaining that I do, God still looks out for me.
Yeah.
That gives me hope. Because it would suck if it's just like, well, you're here, son.
Right.
But he's like, you're here. All right, I got you. We just change your life. There you go. Give you a little nudge.
Yeah.
I still got you. You can complain, but I got you. So I think that's what I think that's kind of, it gives me hope, because I'm gonna be real and honest, guys. You're gonna complain until you start a journey of self-development. There's no way, if you're not doing some self-reflection, self-realization, self-accountability, when you're looking and saying, I can do better with this, I need to stop doing this, you start noticing it. Complainers never notice when they complain. I never used to notice it until I started, reading the Bible, getting up early, meditating. I was like, you're complaining. Let's pray. Let's refocus. Let's write it down. Gotta thank God.
That's interesting.
So it's key things that you can do, but self-development is connecting with God. Like, you have to, because everything that you're going through is in the Bible. Just think, we've read what? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. All throughout, I've learned valuable lessons that apply to my life. Just every time I read the Bible, it's like, oh man, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Luckily, this isn't back then. I'd be giving up a lot of goats and sin offerings, right? So, but that once again, that's self accountability. But you don't get that unless you start reading the Bible, and then you start noticing you complain. And then when you start noticing you complain, you can self be accountable, and you can pray, and you can get better at it.
Correct.
You can
Self-correct.
self correct, right? You can be like, please stop complaining,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm gonna be real and honest. I don't think that I probably did it more, but since I've been on this journey, I see it way more. I don't think I
Yeah.
noticed it at first, you know.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting how the word is kind of like a reflection. It's like a mirror. You know, when you were speaking about, and I don't want to get too far off of our,
yeah,
off of the text, but when you're speaking about accountability, like self accountability and self journey and self, things like this, it reminded me of just something that I don't know if this is a word or a book or whatever. I've never seen it, but I call it selfology. You have sociology where you study, society or whatever, societies, cultures, things like this. But selfology, like one of the points that I was making last week when I was talking to James about something that I'm doing, um, but I was like, we need to study ourselves like individually, because even if someone else is studying you, right, even if it's someone else's job to study you, like they're doing a biography or a movie about you, a documentary or something, they still don't have as much information as you have on you. And so who better to study you than you, right? And the benefit of studying yourself is because it's obviously going to let you see what you're doing, and if you're, if you have a desire to be better, like it starts with the study of what you're actually doing. And I would venture to say that a lot of us don't recognize what we're actually doing. We kind of just going through the motions, and it's one of the reasons why people say so much that they don't have time. And it's like, when you have time, you just are spending some of your time on something that you're not even paying attention to, right? So it's funny when you say that, because I think about selfology and self-study, like the study of yourself and what you're actually doing. And so when we're reading this, they're probably, we talk about self-development. We're doing other things in addition to reading the Bible. But it's kind of, I mean, this is the core of it, because you get to see yourself. You get to see like, oh man, this is like a sin, or it's blasphemous against God, or it's not honoring God to act this way, and I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I see myself in this text. So it's just like really super interesting, because without the text, you could easily go into a depression studying yourself. Like, you just think like, what am I doing? I don't deserve to be here. You know what I mean? But knowing that this is human nature, and that people have done this before, and that there are rules and laws and things that you can do to become better, it just makes everything make sense. It makes a lot make sense. So anyway, sorry to go off on a tangent there, but
no, I agree, man.
Had to do.
Man, I can only imagine where we're gonna be at when we start to get like Proverbs.
Wherever it is, it's going to be super uncomfortable.
Amos.
Wherever it is, I just know that it's going to be like, so uncomfortable. Because by then we'll know more. So then we'll have to act on the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You can't just gain information and not act on it. So the more we read and understand, I feel the more responsibility we're actually taking on too. So it's not, this is obviously certainly a journey of understanding the word, but like once you what they say, if you knew better, you do better. We're learning learning more, so we're also required to act on it. So I feel like we're going to be different people by the time we get to Corinthians.
We're going
to be different people.
By the time we get
I mean, golly. And I'm not trying to rush anything. you know,
Yeah, we
but
different people.
but
Yeah.
as we learn more, and then some of the stuff is like repetitive, it kind of speaks to things that we already saw or read. So that's really good because it's not like you're just gaining all this, you know, new information. What do you do with this? But I'm also learning through this. Okay, sorry. I'm also learning through this how to absorb information because it's not about memorizing it and knowing every single word of what you read. It's about understanding it, absorbing it, and coming away with your takeaway. You don't have to understand it the same way someone else understood it. It's what you're ready to sort of like absorb. It's what God wants you to see. So, you know, as you move along and you're reading things, you're not going to get 100% of every detail, but you're going to get what you need. And it's going to be something that helps you to understand how you, even it's helping me to understand how I learn, how to absorb, how I absorb things, how I read.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that.
I mean, I like that. I'm going to say this and then we're going to move on. Just piggyback off what you said about the absorbing information. That's why I kind of like, I'm keeping it to like 10 verses, increments of 4, because you get time to read it, you get time to reflect and study on it, and not just, I'm gonna power through, right? I'm gonna power through, but because we're doing 4, we have time to reflect, talk about it, absorb the information. And it might take us a long time. Yeah. It might take us 3 years. And I'm going to love it because I'm going to be a different person. And my wife is going to be a different person. And we're going to we're going to absorb the knowledge more.
Yeah.
Because, we're not just reading it.
Yeah, we're not reading it to get through the chapters.
Oh, yeah.
We're reading it to understand it.
Understand it. We're reading it for reflection. We're reading it for God intended it for us. And then we're speaking about it through us to you. So maybe that's what God is using us for.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Literally, it's just, it's about an obedience.
Yeah.
Right? It's not something that there's terribly like lots of motives attached. Like I would like to see lots of people reading with us. Like that's what my ultimate like I guess measurement of success would be. Yeah. But what if we don't even get to see that? Like and I'm okay with that too because I just feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like I showed up, I went to class type thing. Like mark me here. Mark me here, God, I did it. Yeah. But it would be great to see. That would be my, sort of like, I think I said that in our introduction and purpose videos. Just like my sort of like win out of this would be to see, just throw a number out there, 500 people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I read the Bible along with the IICIIG couple.
I love that, yeah.
Right? 500 people. That would be magnificent. Right? 500 people that saw this and they were inspired to read the Bible. Right? Like, oh, you guys made it. You're not smarter than me. Right? I wouldn't even take that as an insult. Like, you're right. Yeah. We're not smarter than you. So that would be great. But we just watched this podcast that we watched. So shout out to Social Proof. And David one of the
and Donnie Wiggins, shout out.
One of the regular entrepreneurs that comes to the show, to the taping of the show, she was talking about how she just saw an exhibit on Vincent van Gogh, and it broke down how he didn't get his flowers while he were here type of thing. Like he couldn't even he only sold like one of his paintings and he painted like hundreds of paintings or something like this. So it was like, and now everybody knows who Van Gogh is. Like you could, if you had to name 5 artists, Van Gogh would probably be one of them. And I don't know a lot about his life. I heard something happened to his ear. I don't really know the story about it, but I knew he was poor. Like, I knew that before she said it. And I knew that nobody knew who he was. But it's like, if he was just being obedient or just doing whatever he was passionate about, he wasn't guaranteed that, oh, everybody, you're going to paint and everybody's going to see it and they're going to love it. And they're going to come pat you in the back and be like, your painting was great. Like, you're not afforded that, right? Like, you're not guaranteed that. So I always say all that just to say, it's possible that this thing just lives on the internet for decades, and then one day somebody's like, oh, back in 2022, this couple was reading the Bible. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we could be 90 years old by then, or maybe not even here anymore. Yeah. But we're just doing, we're being obedient. So anyway.
All right.
Keep going on tangents here. What is a tangent when you have a podcast? It's all conversation.
It's all conversations. There is no tangent.
This is the perfect job for us because all we do is sit around and talk and push around ideas and challenge each other's assumptions. So this is podcasting was made for us.
Is it? Yeah.
That's my mom calling.
Shout out, your mom made it though. I mean, you can play it, but I don't know.
No, we're not gonna do that.
All right. What about I made the podcast?
I'll call her right back up.
All right, cool. So Numbers 35 to 36. It was towns for the Levites, cities of refuge, limitations on women property owners.
Mm-hmm.
So the town for the Levites, basically, if the Israelites got some land, the Levites, God was like, the Levites need land too, which is fair.
Yeah.
There are. So remember who the Levites were?
Yes, I do.
They were in Exodus. When some of the people, when Moses came back down and they were worshiping a golden bull, Aaron was there too, worshiping the bull as well, and which happens. Listen, if you don't,
it does.
If you're left to your own devices,
Yeah.
So when Moses said, "Whoever's of God, come with me," some people did, and they were the Levites. Some were the Levites, and then God said, "Now they're going to take a vow and work for me." So it's only fair that the Levites get some of the land. The cities of refuge. Basically, if you commit a crime, if you murder somebody, nothing happens to you. You go to the city of refuge. People leave you alone until you stand trial. And the limitations on women property owners, that
was about the whole Jubilee thing.
Yeah.
So can I speak on this?
Yeah,
because I'm super interested in women of the Bible. If I were to come away with if I had a sort of a minor, if we're majoring in reading the Bible, I guess my mind perks up, my ears perk up when we start to read about what was happening with women in the Bible. I just think it's so interesting because I'm a woman. So I just think it's so interesting because I put myself in those shoes. This is how I would have been dealt with and treated and, regarded back in these days. So What happens here is that, we saw with the inheritance of property back a few chapters back that if a man were to die and the men's sons were getting property, or it would be their sons or their brothers. If somebody were to die and leave an inheritance to their offspring or their family, the men would inherit. So then the women rose up and were like, well, wait a minute. What if we don't have any brothers? Shouldn't we be able to claim our father's property? You know what I'm saying? If he's, if he passes away. And God said yes. So with that though, if a woman is to inherit her father's property, so we're here. The woman inherited the land of her father because there were no brothers or male counterparts involved after her father passed away, left an inheritance. The woman received the inheritance. Now if that woman goes and marries into another tribe, right? If that woman goes and marries into another tribe, then then, what happens to the inheritance? The inheritance gets, absorbed by that new tribe. So now it could be off balance, right? It could quickly get off balance if a woman from one tribe inherited her father's inheritance and then married someone from another tribe, right? So then it becomes a rule that in order to keep the inheritance, and then they went through this whole thing about at Jubilee, which is I think every 50 years, then it would get, repurposed or restructured. But if you have an inheritance and then you marry somebody, it's still the inheritance of you, of your new family. So it could get out of balance that way. So then they made up the rule that the women have to marry within their tribes. They basically have to marry their cousins. They have to marry their cousins in order to keep the inheritance within their own family and tribe. So yeah, you would just have to marry within the tribe in order to keep the inheritance. So that's what that was about. Yes. So what was the question?
Why is a city of refuge important?
A city of refuge is important because unlike, I don't want to say that, but we kind of supposed to have that in America when they say innocent until proven guilty, where if something happens and you're being accused of something, or it's being, assumed that you committed a crime, you're supposed to be looked at as if you're innocent until someone can prove your guilt. But that is not exactly the way it works. A lot of times people get prosecuted in the media before the trial ever even takes place, right? Sometimes it's based on what people have seen on video or what have you, but sometimes it's just based on assumption, and it's based on bias, and it's based on prejudice. Sometimes it's based on racism. Okay, I had to say that. And so if you think, you think of the you know who I'm talking about, the guys in Central Park 5.
Yep.
That is one thing, and I feel like that's happened a lot with Black people in particular, right? Where we just watched this episode of what's the name of that show with Queen Latifah?
Equalizer.
We just watched this episode of Equalizer that was bomb because it really broke down how these things happen. Obviously it's a fictitious show, but it's based on real life things that do happen. And this happens to have happened, and we know it has happened before because people have been exonerated for crimes that they did not commit. Or we will later find out that people did not commit these crimes. Like Emmett Till's accuser came out several, decades after he died and said, "Oh, actually, I lied." You know what I mean? And he didn't even stand a trial. Okay, so, that's one example, but there's plenty of examples that are more recent, things that have happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, where people were accused of doing things and were basically prosecuted.
2020.
This year, listen, so it's a lot of stuff that happens like that where people are accused of doing something, or it's assumed that they've done something, and then they don't even get a fair shake because everyone already assumes they're guilty. And so that's why I think it's important to have a city of refuge, because at least there's somewhere you can go to be sort of protected, until the facts come out, or until, things go in the way of an investigation. Instead of, I could only imagine having to walk through the town and people are whispering about you, or, or somebody trying to get revenge on something they think you did without all the information coming to light. So I think a city of refuge is important. And I want to point out that it's not jail. It's not jail here in the Bible. So a lot of times nowadays, when you get accused of something, you go to jail. And then you have to post bond. And I guess it's appropriate in some cases, especially where there's evidence, where there's witnesses. But it sucks for people to have to go to jail and they didn't even do anything. And then they spend all this time in jail just to find out later that, oh, you didn't even do anything. So, it's my bad. Like, it's better to have a city of refuge. So I wanted to point that out because it's not jail and it's not prison. It's a city that is set aside as a city of refuge where people can go while their trial details and investigations are being worked out.
Yeah.
So that's my answer. That's why a city of refuge is important.
Yeah. I agree with the same thing. And the city of refuge is also, yeah, like you said, nobody's looking at you, and I can't. You answered it perfectly. Like, it's not like go here, you've done it, and then it's years later that you haven't did it, or no knock warrants.
Hmm.
Like it's just a lot that goes on nowadays that that didn't go on in the Bible that just makes you reflect. Look at things differently. Because when I realized that God is fair, so with the city of refuge is like, hey, don't let nobody talk to this person. Let this person just until we figure out what happened, what's going on. Then he'll pay. And if it comes out that he didn't do it, he gets to go back. There's no, the city of refuge isn't like, no, it's just a city where people go. You have a house. You still eat good.
Mm-hmm.
You're not waking up at 5. It's not prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place. You're not behind bars. You're still in society. You're away from society, but you still can wake up whenever you want to. You're still free. You're just awaiting trial, like, all right. And it comes out that, oh, you're good. You get to go home. You're just leaving one city to another. Can you imagine you commit a crime and you go to Bowie from Upper Marlboro? That's what this is. You're chilling.
Oh
You're just
God.
not with your family. You're in another city. That's what
One
it
thing
is.
that I did wonder though is
It's crazy.
whether there were more people.
I think it was people.
Where it was a bunch of people there. Like
I don't think
all
it was
of
a
y'all,
bunch of people, but it was
because
people.
it wasn't everybody wasn't innocent. I'm sure.
No.
But it's like, okay, you're getting shipped out.
Yeah. Just go to another city. You're not in there alone. Now you are alone that you're not with your family until but you get to wake up. You're in the city.
Uh-huh.
You're not behind bars.
Yeah.
Like it's going from Upper Marlboro to Bowie, man.
That's
Going
funny.
from DC to Baltimore. That's all
funny.
it is, man. It's a different city. It is what it is. All right, so Deuteronomy.
Yes.
1 through 2. Israel.
Yes, you better say that word.
Oh man. Israel wanders the desert again, and I think because what happened previously. You remember Moses can't go into it. Moses can't go into the land. He's forbidden.
Yeah.
Because.
Man, that was a tough one for me to swallow.
He called him. He said, "You rebels."
Yeah, and he broke the rock with his thing. He knocked on a rock. Knocked on a rock.
Yeah, he got angry. Anger, man, is a crucial emotion. All right, so here's the question: have you ever given someone a gift and they were ungrateful for your time and effort, and how did you feel?
Oh man, I'm so sure that has happened. There's a couple of instances.
I can't think of a gift. I can think of.
I mean, friendship is a gift.
Friendship is a gift.
Time is a gift.
Time is a gift.
Right? So you got to think of gift more. Not creatively, but like whatever it is that you spent your time and effort on, and to honor someone else, right? That's a gift. And they were ungrateful for your time and effort. So, yes, I'm thinking of a specific thing right now, but there are several things that were just running through my mind. So, I'm just going to generalize it. Do you want to go answer that question first, or do you want me to answer it first?
I can answer it.
Yeah.
So this happens to me more recently, and I know what it felt like.
Okay.
And opportunity is a gift as well. And what happened was you're in a moment, you give somebody, we'll say gift, right? And you put in time for this gift. And because I'm not gonna say any names, I'm not even gonna say the situation. But I made you make this card, right? You make a card, you get some color pencils, and you go to Michael's, and you make it. This isn't about,
I'm in general.
generalized.
I'm not trying to figure nothing out.
And I put it together, and I gave this person a gift, and I didn't realize it until some time went by, and then I noticed some things, and then I was like, they don't appreciate the time and effort that I put into this. And it hurt.
It hurt.
It hurt. I was like, oh man, it hurt, because it's not only that to me, you didn't care. I took my time, drove to Michael's, put this card together, did some research. I got the right color pencils and the markers and the paint. I drew up a card and gave it to you. And I come over your house, and it's underneath your, it's holding up your couch or something like that. And I'm like, golly, man. So then it hurts. It just feels like that. The person didn't care about the time and the effort that I put into it.
Yeah.
So
this is a wild trip here, because
I'll tell you the situation after we get off. It's not with you.
And so this is funny, right? Because as you were sitting there saying that, I was actually imagining a few times where I didn't appreciate some of the things that you do for me. Because, you're in a marriage and you just kind of like, this person's always around, they're always talking, they're always in your way or whatever you think, right?
Yeah.
They're living their life too, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So sometimes you don't recognize that. That being me, like sometimes I don't recognize that. Sometimes I look around and it's just kind of like, well, are you happy too? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just be so in my own head that I just don't even be considering that all the time. But, that's why I be asking you sometimes, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Because it's just like,
sometimes that helps me out.
Like, I wonder what your experience is, But anyway, as you were saying that,
I was
thinking.
That you asked that, because sometimes, as a man, we don't get to ask how we feel.
That's not like a cool question to ask each other, huh?
No, kind of raised as this stone cold RoboCop beast. Like, this is how men are just supposed to provide. And listen, I provide, guys. I'm not saying
absolutely.
That, right? But it feels good when you ask how I feel. Because how you're doing is not how I feel.
Yeah. Yes.
So sometimes it's good to be like, you know what, I don't feel good, or I don't feel right, or this hurt.
In those times, it seems like you hadn't even really considered or asked yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
that's
how
interesting.
do I feel? So yeah, that's good. So
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
So, but as you were talking about it, it made me think about the other C, right? Because I already said I had a couple of examples of how, right, how I felt when I felt like people were ungrateful for what I did. But like then immediately I thought to myself like, well, dang, like I know I've taken things for granted before, especially with James. And so what I was just thinking about how that plays out on the end of the person who is unappreciative or ungrateful, right? When someone's doing something and you're not even taking into consideration that either like they're doing their best or they're having their day and everything's not about you. and then here you go being unsatisfied or displeased by their, it's not a performance for you, Faith. We're not just all here in the Faith production. So I was just thinking about that. But okay, here's the thing, that have I ever given someone a gift and they were ungrateful for your time and effort? Yes. There's two examples that I'm thinking of. I'm going to try to like group them together, generalize, but then I'm going to talk about what I come away with, right? So actually I might just go with this one example. I don't want to use specific names either. So what I realized,
I didn't even want to use names
or situations. Yeah, that's why this is so hard to
that's
answer.
Why I made the card example.
Yes, I have given someone a gift and they were ungrateful for time and effort. It made me feel not even like disrespected, but like undervalued. It made me feel like, and I knew I had value, right? But it made me feel like what I was doing was undervalued. And so then that made me feel like the producer of undervalued product, if you will. So, and in that particular instance, it was actually a team of us. And I had mentioned to our team that this is a good example of why we need to be asked to complete a task or project as opposed to trying to go above and beyond to be generous, right? Like, because in the scenario where you're just generously giving your gift to one source or to, into a vacuum, it seemed like if somebody's utilizing your services, your time, your effort to their benefit, and they haven't asked you to do that, I don't like that for me, because the just the ask, right? It's not even like I need to exchange any monetary or barter anything. Just the ask, for someone to ask you, hey, would you mind, baking me this cake, or would you mind donating this, or would you mind spending some time looking into this? Just the ask is the showing that it is something of value that you need from me, right? So if you can purse your lips to ask me, then you know that you needed this favor, or that you're coming to me for this favor, and then whatever I produce will be appreciated because it will meet or exceed your expectations, or we can have that conversation when it happens. But when I just offer, and I'm continuously offering my service, my time, my product, whatever, and you're not asking for it, then it's easier for you to devalue it and say something of the like something similar to, well, I didn't even ask you to do all that, right? And then it's just like, I guess you didn't. And so nobody ever said that, but it was just how I felt, right? And that's the answer to the question. Giving someone a gift, they were ungrateful for your time and effort. And honestly, who knows if they were ungrateful for it, right? Like, they could have been grateful for it and didn't say it, but it made me feel undervalued. It did. So I don't even know where that question came from. Wandering in the desert, I guess maybe God was feeling that way, or Moses was probably feeling that way. I would imagine Moses was probably feeling undervalued. Like, look, man, I've given my life to God to serve you people. and you're just constantly complaining. You're constantly complaining about where we're going, about whether I have the leadership skills to lead you there, about what you're going to eat, about what you're going to do. Has God not provided? And maybe it's saying that God feels that way. Maybe it's saying that. Yeah. I don't know where that question came from. We're reading out of the 365 daily Bible reading plan from teachsundayschool.com, so we're reading those questions. Yeah. But I wondered, because they referenced that last book of, or they referenced Deuteronomy 1 and 2, and I'm wondering if that question was in response to Moses, or was it in response to God? Okay, so anyway. Let's
Probably
continue.
not how God feels.
Yeah, God doesn't need us. I mean, okay.
Okay. Deuteronomy 3 and 4.
Yes.
Okay. Israel's wanderings in the promised land is here. God's words to Israel. The God's words were Moses commanded obedience. Idols were forbidden. False idols. He's gonna basically. I'm assuming this is gonna go back into the rules over again. So remember when Moses had the 10 Commandments, but they were also laws that were given. So it's the 10 Commandments, and then there's also a lot of laws and rules that follow the 10 Commandments. So I believe it's going to go back over that. You know, cleaning festivals, firstborn animals, 7-year debt cancellation. Yeah. Clean and unclean food. Obey and love God. I'm reading what we're going to read next week, but it's going back over.
Yeah, so Deuteronomy is the last 5 books of law, right? And so it's taken from a Greek translation meaning second law. So it's basically going back over the first laws and adding a second law, is what my understanding of it is. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So I think it's going to go back into it. So that's what Deuteronomy is, just basically the laws again and rules, and which is cool because since we're hearing it again, and I'm probably going to be like, oh, so you're going to get a lot of oof next week, right? So, all right, here's the last question. What are some things these people learned while wandering for 40 years?
You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
You can go first.
What are some things these people learned while wandering for 40 years? Okay, they learned... Okay, so I got at least 3 things here. I'm going to try not to take all the answers. They learned that God provides. Like, they wandered around for 40 years, and they never ran out of, like, you know what I mean? Like, they always had what they needed. I think they learned the laws and how to treat each other. Because you remember, if we go back, they said, when you get to the promised land, right, you're going to encounter these people who are doing the wrong thing, so I need you to be familiar with all of the right things. And that's where the laws kind of came into play. I would like to think that so this is almost one of those iffies. This is my last and final one. I would like to think that they learn not to mess around with God, right? Because God's going to give you what you ask for, whether it's kind of like good for you in the long run or not. Like, he's going to, I don't say it like that. That's not true. But in their case, they, like, for instance, when they were like, oh, we don't want to attack the, I don't know, was it Midianites? I don't know. I got some stuff, like, switched around.
Which one? With the grasshoppers and the giants?
Yeah, they were like, Amorites. The Amorites, we don't want to attack them. God told them, listen, go take the land, kill all the people, take the spoils and the whatever, plunder, and take over the land, burn everything, start over. Now, when they got that instruction from God, and a couple of them were like, we're just gonna hang back here. It's fine. We like the weather here, or whatever they said.
Oh yeah, that was
right?
Gilead, Gad, and
God was like,
I think the
no, that's not what I asked you to do. So cool, you'll just die in the wilderness, right? Like, since you don't want to go and be obedient, you'll just die in the wilderness. And I think after that they tried to go back and be like, oh, my bad, no, we'll do it, God. And it was just too late. So it's like, I would like to think that they learned how not to do that. I even wonder if they knew they were going to die. Like, I think God said they were going to die in the wilderness, but did they even did they even think like, man, I messed up? Or were they just like, yeah, that's what we want to do? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we get these lessons in life sometimes, present day, where it's just like, well, I'm not willing to grow. I'm not willing to go and do what I've been, prompted to do, or what God's basically telling me to do. I'm just going to stay right here because it feels safer or it feels comfortable. And sometimes people are willing to take the consequences of comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if that was one of those situations. Like, you're just going to take the consequences of comfortable over growing, being uncomfortable and growing and creating a legacy based off of what God told you to do and his instruction and his guidance and his will.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. They should have learned not to do what they have been doing in the past, but I don't know. So those are my 3 things.
Nothing. I don't think they learned anything.
That's your answer to the question?
I don't think they learned anything. I've learned people Joshua of Nun learned, but everybody that wandered complained.
That's a good point.
They kept complaining and they kept rebelling. They remember even the Levites, Kobath. They try to rebel against Moses. You don't know what you're doing. Then, there are giants in the land. Take us back to Egypt. You want to go back to slavery? You complain when you were in slavery. I bring you out of slavery. You complain with the Egyptians. Moses leads you out. Pharaoh has a chariot. I open the Red Sea. Then I have an angel give you light by night, guard you by day. Then you complain that you don't have food. I give you manna. I give you bread from heaven to give you life. I protect you on the way. You still complain. I show you this new land. Wonderful. The land that I've promised Abraham. And then I promised Isaac. And then I promised Jacob. You still complained. Yeah. So, man. Yeah. You look at the giants in the land and then you go, no, I don't want to go. Then, you're not. So,
well, maybe the children were learning, and those are the people who inherited the promised land. That's wild. Think about that for a second. The children were the ones that handled. They're the ones. So, can you imagine if the adults were just complaining and saying, "Oh, this isn't, what I want. This isn't good enough for me," and the children were just learning, like, "Oh, yeah," like in wonder, like, "Wow, look, there's manna. Yeah. There's water coming out of a rock." You know what I mean? Like,
God is good.
God is good. Can you imagine if they were getting it and then the parents were just
I believe that's exactly what happened. That's what happens in real life.
It is.
I feel like...
that's what happens present day.
Present day. Kids notice more things. And they could say... We could say kids... Man, kids are rough. Kids are honest. They don't know... they're taught things. But a natural kid... He doesn't care what color your skin is. They just want to play. They don't care. You can't lie to a child. A child's not gonna lie. They're gonna be honest. Like, it's this thing on Instagram. This lady was going by with her daughter in a car. Mom, and she pointed at some wine and said, Mommy's water. Kids don't lie. They don't care. They're gonna be honest and they're gonna tell you what's on their mind and they're gonna tell you how they feel. So if a child was going through this and seeing these miracles from God, they're not complaining. They're happy because they see it from a different perspective. The adults, we get older, we start losing certain things.
Yeah, we become like desensitized
Yeah,
or
like oh,
or programmed
like
even.
we're taught like a white lie is good. No, no lie is
Yeah,
good. Oh, you tell me all the time. Let me know if I look crazy.
yeah, I do tell you
Like, oh, you look good, babe, and you go out in public, people talk about you,
that. Yeah.
and then you get home, you're like, what are you doing? I
Why
told
didn't you
you.
tell
Why
me I
did you
looked
tell me
crazy?
I look crazy?
Yeah.
You have to be like, right. So
Yeah.
just don't lie.
Yeah. I be
So
needing that for sure.
yeah.
I
So
appreciate that.
so the white lie doesn't help anybody. Right,
Mm.
but as adults, we're just taught not to say what's on our mind, and then we get, like you said, desensitized. And kids, well, that's why we go. Oh, kids are awesome. They have no filter. They're
Mm.
gonna tell you exactly what they feel, how they feel, in the moment.
Oh my God, that reminds me of this Instagram thing that I saw, where the kid, actually, the wife was asking the husband, "Would you love me if I was fat?" And he said something like, "Of course I would love you if you were fat." And then the kid is off in the background talking about, "But you are fat, mommy."
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, wow.
Like, yes,
That's
like
crazy.
a
But
kid.
mom, you are fat.
she had nothing to do with the laugh, but that's how that's how kids are.
I was like,
So
oh my God.
so that's the kids are gonna be children.
Yeah, they're going to be honest.
They're gonna be, oh man, thank you, Lord. Yeah, I could defeat the giant. As adults,
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know.
Yeah, because we're leaning on our own understanding.
Yeah.
We can't do the math in our
The
heads.
kid's like, yeah, I'll knock that giant down. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. It's real. It's real
So,
talk.
that's
It's real talk.
that's it. That was my answer. They ain't learned nothing.
Well, guys, we thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
We obviously are trying to bring together and encourage a community of people to read the Bible along with us, or even at their own pace. It doesn't have to be along with us, but we like that community aspect. So please join us. We always say, don't take our word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible. Got to say that every time. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of people. One is Miss Damita Jo. Wonderful, wonderful lady. Does show reviews. She has a show over on ReTV, who's going to be my second shout out, where she talks about what's going on in pop culture. Also, her and myself have a live that we do every Thursday night on YouTube, on her channel, where we just go over whatever it is that we're watching, whatever we're talking about in the pop culture state of wherever things are. So we join you to come and see us over there. Again, that is not made for children. We are not, limiting ourselves in our words and our verbiage. So just want to put that out there. If you come over there, it's not PG-13. Another shout out that I have is for ReTV, Relationship Television. If you haven't checked them out, you need to. They're doing their thing over there. They have a variety of different programming. They also have an app. I will go ahead and link below and figure so that you can see how to connect with them, follow them, and support them. And those are my two shout outs for this week.
Yeah. I'm gonna give my shout out to Fourth Quarter, another channel. It's like, if you like sports and you're tired of listening to the same old stuff, just come follow me, man, and just get a different perspective. I love sports. I love to talk about it. I could talk about it all day, and that's what we do on the channel. So, once again, come in, tune in, listen. It's awesome, and I post a lot of content. So, that's it. No more shout outs.
No.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us on Is It Crazy or Is It God? We look forward to you liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, following. Make sure you're listening to the podcast. And I don't know if you download your podcast or what have you, but you can find us wherever you listen to a podcast. We're on Apple, we're on Google, Spotify. So just go ahead and look for us. You can find us on social media by searching Is It Crazy or Is It God? You can also go to our link tree, which is on wherever you're seeing this. But it's also on our Instagram profile. But I also just want to say, if you are not subscribed, you want to do that. We're everywhere you are, we think. If you're on a social media platform and we're not there, we'd love for you to let us know. You can find us by searching Is It Crazy or Is It God? Or you could search IICIIG. And we appreciate the follow. We appreciate the support. We just want to get this out there and have as many people be impacted as possible. Next week, we will be reading Deuteronomy 5 through 16. Deuteronomy 5 through 16. So we look forward to y'all reading with us, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Peace.